Hello everyone, I'm John Evans, and welcome to another episode of One on One. Many people know Boubacar Aw for his success on the basketball court. First at East Columbus High School, then at Georgetown University, where he went to the Elite Eight of the NCAA basketball championships one season, and later became a team captain for Hall of Fame coach John Thompson. Boubacar won national championships and Most Valuable Player awards playing professional basketball overseas, and now is the successful coach for the Hoggard High School girls basketball team. The better story is what most people do not know: the challenges Boubacar Aw overcame to achieve success. Not knowing English when he arrived at East Columbus High School, and going on to graduate with honors at Georgetown University, starting as a substitute teacher and growing into an educator who teaches his students language lessons, but more importantly, life lessons. Boubacar Aw,
Yes, sir.
from Senegal to Lake Waccamaw to Georgetown to Hoggard High School. Welcome to my podcast.
No, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Your trip from the day you were born until today, as we tape this, is monumental in achievements.
Well, thank you. Yeah, just like you mentioned earlier, born in Senegal, I never thought I would be here right now talking to you. But I was very blessed to be given the opportunity to come to the U.S. But at the time when I was in Senegal, before I came to the U.S., I was a pretty talented athlete and a great student. But I knew I wanted to pursue both. And when I was given the opportunity to come here to pursue both athletics and academics, I jumped on it. Back in Senegal, we know the U.S. is probably the best place to pursue both. And 93, that's when I first came here.
How did that opportunity come up? I know you came here for your senior year at East Columbus, but you were born there and then you went through your elementary school and then your middle school years. How did that opportunity present itself?
Well, I was a very talented basketball player, and these big colleges, they all over the place. And I remember we had this continental competition. And at that time, the assistant coach of Georgetown at that time, Coach Esherick, attended the competition, and it was me and a friend of mine on the team. We were on the youth team, and he was pretty excited. He wanted us to. He talked to us if we were interested, and at that time there was a guy named John Jacks who was also from Lake Waccamaw, played for Coach Battles, and he was at Georgetown. So they had to find a place for me to stay because I had not done with high school yet. So that's when they found this family, the Battles. And over time they've become my own family. Eva Battle and Gary Battle. I call them mom and dad. Great people. I was pretty lucky. And so they would agreed to host me and basically to mentor me and teach me everything I knew, teach me everything I needed to know about this country, the culture, the language, and the way of life. And they've done a marvelous job. And so there I was.
Most people don't know much about Senegal, and I must admit I was one of them. Did a little bit of research. It's on the far western tip of Africa.
Yes.
It is now the second largest city. I guess it was the third largest city back in the 90s, early 2000s, but now has grown to be the second largest city in Senegal. It's called Chess.
Yes.
Okay. I even got the pronunciation right. That's pretty good for an old guy like me.
Job.
What was life like growing up? It seemed like a hub for transportation and also a lot of peanut farming in that area too. But what was life like growing up for you?
Well, if you the location of Senegal is right northwest, right on the coast, on the Atlantic coast. So Senegal is basically surrounded by water, and Thiès specifically is right also on the water. And so you have a lot of, just like you mentioned, peanut farming, but also people do a lot of, we had this big railroad company. That's the back, that's our, Thiès was the headquarters that was built by a friend, and my dad worked there. So life was pretty easy, basically, we dealt with a lot of train noise, you know, because the company was not far away from home.
Right.
Because they had this neighborhood, the railroad company had this neighborhood. That's where we all live.
Well, all the employees
all
lived.
the employees live there. I mean, that's the French system. So we grew up with a lot of noise. We had our own neighborhood, so grew up playing a little bit of soccer initially. Then I started getting taller and taller. That's when I switched to basketball. I mean, if you know a little bit of Senegal, we have basketball is probably the third largest sport, but we have wrestling, traditional wrestling, which is huge.
Oh, really?
Which is our national hobby. Then you have soccer, which is the second largest sport, then basketball. So just like any Senegalese kid, I grew up just loving soccer, just playing soccer. Just one day I wanted to be a professional soccer player. Then I started getting taller and taller.
When did that growth spurt hit?
Gosh, when I was, I started playing basketball a little bit late. Like when I was maybe 12, that's when I started getting like taller and taller, 13. That's when this guy saw me.
All of a sudden you started looking down on all the friends instead of looking them in the eye a little bit?
I was the biggest guys out there on the soccer field. And, one of the guys just, told me, maybe soccer may not be your thing. Not because you're not skilled, but dude, every time I see you getting taller and taller, have you tried basketball? Then I'm like, I'm not sure. I would like basketball. It wasn't big at that time. So I gave it a try, but I ended up falling in love with it, and you come to find out I was pretty gifted at it. I had really good feet then because of soccer. So when I moved to basketball, it was just automatic. I was picked it up quick,
And your height gave you the opportunity to play inside a little bit. You didn't have to run all the way around on the point all the way and chasing everybody all the time.
Well, I actually, because of my height, a lot of people thought I was an inside player, but I was actually a perimeter player.
Oh, you played perimeter?
Yes, I played guard and forward, small forward.
Okay.
Yes. So
did you like the shooting part?
Well, not the shooting part so much. That's just one aspect of playing guard outside. But every other aspect I did well because I had such a good feet. I was a great defender. I was a great dribbler. I was a great penetrator. I ran the floor really well. So those are the aspects that I did really well. I wasn't a very good shooter.
So you're going to school there. You're matriculating. How big was your family?
My family, wow. If you understand Senegalese family, my dad had 3 wives. Yes,
Wow.
That's the traditional African family.
Oh,
but
okay.
back then that's how things worked. So I have maybe 19 half brothers. And just my own family, we were 6, same mother, same brother, we were 6, but I got 19 half brothers. Yes, when I first found out that I had that many brothers, I was shocked. But it was a traditional African family. Seems like, I thought it was normal back then.
Right.
Because, every family, this was maybe 1, 2 wives, 3,
And you grew up speaking French?
Yes, grew up speaking French and Wolof.
And what is that?
Wolof is a dialect from Senegal.
Okay.
We have many dialects. Wolof is probably the most common dialect in Senegal. But we have about over 10 dialects in Senegal. My mom alone speaks about 3 of them, But Wolof is the most spoken dialect in Senegal.
Now, is that a branch of French? Will you start a conversation in French and then switch to that halfway through? Or how does, do you speak to different family members in different dialects?
Well, it's actually, Wolof was not actually written until recently. We started writing it.
Okay.
But it was just a spoken, language and nothing to do with French. But now there's this phenomenon that's happening where there's a mixture of both of them, French and Wolof.
Okay.
I cannot probably have a full sentence without using a French word in my conversation when I'm speaking Wolof to my family or anybody else.
I just didn't know if it was I remember growing up in my household in Pennsylvania, and my grandmother came here from Czechoslovakia.
Oh, really?
It's Slovak Republic now, but she actually came over here through Ellis Island and was sent to the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton area, and that's where she emigrated to. And so my father learned Slovak, which is a form of Russian growing up. And I remember when I was a kid, they would start a conversation in English, and then when they didn't want the kids to know what they were talking about, in the middle of the sentence, they would switch to Slovak, and it's like, wait a second, I followed that all the way through. Finish the story for me. I wasn't sure if it went that way with you.
You know, I'm going to tell you this story. When I was at Georgetown, we were riding the bus. I think we were coming from, we had just finished playing against Villanova. So we were riding bus back because it was not too far of a ride.
Right,
so
Philadelphia.
we didn't fly. And I had a buddy on the team. He was from Senegal as well. Yeah. So we were in the back, and we were talking Wolof, you know. And Coach Thompson is in the front of the bus. So he got paranoid. He got really upset. I think he heard we were just speaking Wolof, and all of a sudden he heard his name.
So he wanted to know what was the conversation about.
Yeah, he was upset. He said, you know, I don't, you know, when we got there, he said, I heard you guys talking. Obviously, you're a smart guy. You decided to talk in your own language, but I heard my name. So you say, from now on, you are not allowed to speak this
so
language.
he put the rule down on
Yeah, because he was a little bit paranoid because he knew we say something about him.
Well, and you were at that college age at that point in time. How much did you know of America growing up? You know, you said you played and you ended up coming here, but when you were in elementary school grades, middle school, before you got to the point where basketball was an opportunity to come to America, how much did you know about this country?
Well, I didn't know much about it at all. You know, the only thing we know at America, we learned it on TV. So not very much, but we knew, we watched back then. We watched a lot of the NBA, college basketball, but didn't know much about it. So, needless to say, that a little bit of culture shock when I first, got here, how big it was and how fast people talked, and just like a normal culture shock.
But when the opportunity presented itself, obviously you probably had discussions with mom and dad and everything like that. Making the decision to go 4,000 miles away from home, that takes some guts. And you were 17 at the time?
Yes, sir. It wasn't an easy decision because, like you said, I was very young. I was, we have a nuclear family where we are very close. So just decided at that age to get up and go was not easy at all. But I was very determined. I was always a strong-willed kind of guy. But I was very determined. But I didn't know exactly what to expect.
Right.
I mean, if I sit here and tell you I wasn't homesick, or I didn't, there was time I'm like, I just wanna go back. Yeah, there was time where I was very homesick, where I was a little depressed, but I knew there was light at the end of the tunnel, so I wanted to stick with it. And
do you remember that first day in America? Because I don't imagine you came here and saw the place. I imagine it was just packing the bags and waving to mom and dad and everybody else like that and getting on the plane and coming, right?
Yes, sir. It was, my whole family went to the airport to, to wish me good luck and a nice trip. And so when I first got here, after traveling, I traveled, it was all day, almost all day. I was just traveling because it's a long way. Because I think I first landed in D.C., then to D.C., went somewhere else, then finally to Wilmington, and I got here, it was maybe 11 at night, very late. So, then I woke up the next day, I woke up maybe 5, 6 to go to school. That was I was tired. I was in shock because the battles waited for me at the airport, but it was hard to communicate with them because they didn't speak my language. I didn't understand English. So here we are. He's asking me. It's a funny story. He's trying to ask me, "Are you hungry?" He's like, "Are you hungry?" And he speaks really fast. So he's like, "Are you hungry?" I'm like, "What is he talking about?" So I kind of learned a little bit of English, but we learn more of the British English. Very slow. So are you hungry? Are you hungry? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Then he started rubbing his belly. I'm like, well, that's universal right there. I understand that part. Yeah. But it was, it was tough. Going to school and being at school all day, because in Senegal we use the French system. So around 12, you get to go home, have lunch, have a nap, wake up, and go to school again.
Oh, really?
So yes, you get a break, about 3 hours or so of a break.
Wow.
Yes. So here we are, I'm here, my first time ever. And I'm at school. I woke up maybe 5:30 because I live in Wilmington, but we had to go to school in Lake Waccamaw. So a long way, and I'm at school all day. I was pretty tired.
And I can imagine what the first day. I mean, not, you know, the first day in any new school is intimidating for a student, but I can imagine you're walking in, you're 6'7" at that point in time, so you're walking in and then everybody starts hearing the story of this young man coming here from overseas. That had to feel like everybody was just looking at you that first day.
Well, yeah, because they didn't know what to expect, just like I didn't know what to expect. So the first few days, obviously, I stuck by Coach Battle's side, Gary Battle. I just stuck by his side because I'm like, oh, don't leave me. Now, I'm really bit comfortable with you, so please don't leave me behind. I need to be in. Then little by little, I started relaxing. Then there was, I mean, Lake Waccamaw is a great community. The Rigawood, Bolton area, great people. So little by little, some of them start to approach me. And you know, we don't understand much of each other, but we start communicating. Because just, you know, you don't have to speak the same language to communicate.
But you're learning books. You're learning. You're doing your math. You're learning your I mean, you're taking lessons. But then I can imagine you're learning outside of the books had to just be so much greater at that point in time.
No, absolutely. And keep in mind, back in '93, the No Child Left Behind wasn't passed. So there was no ESL program, English as a second language.
Right.
So I was just thrown into the classroom, regular classroom, and just learn. So I excel in a few subjects, like math was pretty good in math. I mean, biology, because math is universal.
Right.
Biology terminology is not that different. So struggling in English, but I had a great English teacher who took her time, especially after school. I would stay longer, and I would just go over, you know, the structure, the grammar, and stuff like that, you know. But yeah, it was tough. It was tough, but I was very determined not to let that.
And you graduated with honors.
Absolutely. Yep. Well,
was that a goal, or were you just working as hard as you could to do whatever you needed to do to succeed?
Well, you know, back then we would practice after school. Either after school, it was the girls' team and the boys' team. If the girls go first, we would go second. A lot of the players would go home, but I would stay and just be in one of the teachers' classroom and go over stuff and stuff. Sponge. Exactly, just going over stuff, you know. At home, during the weekend, I would just go over stuff and stuff, because I have to go over stuff. When you don't understand language, you have to read it time after time after time in order to get it. So I used my time wisely. And, you know, and I felt that also this school was pretty easy, because here I am taking a test. The answer is given to me in a multiple choice format.
Did you not have that prior?
No. We have, we use the French system, which is pretty tough, so everything you have to write.
Right.
If you take a test, you got to write the answer. If they ask you a question, they expect you to come up with the answer. So you have to know that, you know. So here I am, the answer is given to me, I just got to know it.
Yeah. So multiple choice was a foreign concept.
That was awesome. Like, this is great. The answer is given to me.
Wow. I understand, by doing some reading, you loved TV reruns.
Oh, yes.
You would absorb TV. Now, I know what your favorite shows were here, but tell everybody your favorite shows when you were in Lake Waccamaw.
When I was in Lake Waccamaw, we watched Sanford and Son.
Right.
Oh, I loved it. You know, I would watch it even time and time again. And
Different Strokes.
Yes, I did.
Was another one?
Yes, I did. A lot of it. Some of them I didn't even know the name, but you will find me just watching the show over and over. Now, I love the humor, but I did it because it was a way for me to learn English as well. You know, just by watching it. Because the first time I didn't understand it. Now, by watching it over and over, I'm starting to get it. Oh, I understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
You know what he's saying.
Yeah, an article I read in the Washington Post said you loved Sanford and Son was your favorite show.
Yes, it was. I loved it back then. Now it's No, it's Jerry Seinfeld is probably one of
Yeah.
my favorite search.
That's funny to me. A young man coming over here and all of a sudden falling in love with Fred Sanford.
Yes.
I think that's so cool.
I know, it's funny. Yeah.
I did read a quote from another one of the African-born players. I guess it's Yaya.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and you seem to agree in the interview that I read, that one of the things you picked up and he picked up was the way that students talk to teachers here.
Yeah.
And it was almost kind of disappointing to you guys.
Well, to us growing up, teachers were, they were on top of the pedestal. We are a culture that is very respectful to elders. We are very respectful to elders, right? To this day,
right.
When, like, I cannot say my mom, oh, that's not true. No, even if she's not right, I cannot say, Mom, that's not true. No,
right.
No, I can never. So teachers, we looked up to teachers because these are the guys that actually teaches, president, doctors, and engineers. So we were not allowed to be disrespectful to them. So anything they say to us was golden. So just coming here and I, looked at students, the way they talk to teachers, at first I was like, why would you talk to him or to her like that? Mm-hmm. So I was shocked. Then little by little, I'm like, well, when I saw more kids doing it, so I'm like, it's got to be part of the culture. This is how they do things. But I was not very excited and happy about that.
And now that you're a teacher, does it come full circle?
Well, yeah, you learn that. This is part of things, how they, and especially the generation, this is how they are raised, this is what they do. Some of them don't mean anything by it. You just have to, as long as they're not being disrespectful, sometimes they are allowed to disagree with you, which is, that's what we want them to do, to basically form their own opinion, have their own beliefs.
But there's a way of doing that and still being respectful.
Very, very much so. There is a very way of doing it. I feel like sometimes that's something you learn at home, but it's hard when, it's hard to blame the kid because they don't know any better. So you want to blame the parents a little bit.
So when you get to Georgetown, and were you going to go to Georgetown once you got in the United States? Was that always the plan?
That was always the plan. My buddy and I to go to Georgetown, even though we were pretty highly recruited. My first year here, after doing 1 year in high school, highly recruited, but we knew we were going to Georgetown. And I know Coach Thompson even came down here to visit, to make sure, hey, we were on the same track, right? I'm like, yeah. So everything was good. So
did you know of the Georgetown and John Thompson legend at that point in time?
Just a little bit, not to the full extent. I knew that he was, first African American coach to win a, NCAA title,
yeah.
But I didn't know very much about him.
And you get there, what was it like settling into that? Because what I imagine, again, doing some reading, is that he always would be the toughest on the captains of the team. With his thought process was, if I can be tough on the captains, then the captains are going to be tough on everybody else, and the captain should be able to take it, I guess,
That's
is the way
right.
it goes.
And not anybody can be Coach Thompson's captain.
Right.
You have to have some kind of character and some a certain personality to be his captain. He'll tell you, it doesn't mean that you're a senior, you're automatically captain.
Right.
He chooses his captain wisely because you have to demonstrate a level of ethics. You got to be, a good student. You got to be, one of the hardest workers, and that's how you become a captain. But I don't think anybody can prepare you for what your experience at Georgetown until you go through it, because I like to tell people that I spent 4 years in Georgetown. I felt like I was there for 20 years. So
why is that?
Because there is always something. He makes sure that you're an athlete, you're a student athlete. Even in the off season, this is what you are. So you will study, you will work out. It's not like I'm gonna go have fun, go on vacation. There is no vacation.
Right.
It was 24/7. It was a job, 24/7, 24/7. But I'm glad I went through it. But because he's not just about winning. He wants to prepare you to be a good citizen, productive citizen of society.
Right.
And when I got to Georgetown, we were a class of 5 players. I was the only one who ended up playing the last my senior year. 2 of them transferred, and these are good players because they're going to take the heat. Allen Iverson went to the NBA, and there was another guy who stayed there and broke his ankle. Jahidi White broke his ankle our senior year. So I was the only one that played in the class of 5. That tells you, and he warned you, he said, look around. A lot of these players will not be here your senior year, and because some of them cannot take it.
And that was, Georgetown at that point in time was, they were powerhouses. They had built it. Yeah. So you obviously are playing now in front of crowds that you had never seen before, I imagine. Mm-hmm. What was that like? When you're playing, are you in the zone, or do you actually hear the crowd back then?
Well, I think my first game, or my freshman year, I was shocked and nervous. Because then here I am just walking into the stadium. When we first came out to warm up, there was nobody. Went back inside, to Christian prep talk, and came back out. You see people everywhere. we talk about 25,000 people, and So I'm just sitting on the bench like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I'm gonna have to get in this game. I'm sitting at the end of the bench. Maybe, please don't put me in this game.
Really?
Well, yeah, because.
Obviously.
That was the first time, my first time. Then over time, you build some kind of mental toughness to that. It's like you learn how to block those people. And he has something to do with it because he makes you go through so much that mentally you learn to go in any environment and play. It doesn't matter if it's cold, if it's hot, if it's 100,000 people, if it's just 100 people.
What was it like rooming with Allen Iverson?
Oh, boy.
Because the coach said he put you two together for a reason.
Yes. Well, because after I found out that we were going to room together, because I had my best friend on the team, I thought he was going to put us together. So I found out that me and Iverson going to room together. So I go to him. I'm like, did you make a mistake here? I'm like, look at this. Is this a mistake? I'm expecting to hear him say, oh, yeah, boo. He's like, no. So I'm like, what? So he's like, there is a reason to my madness. I do everything, everything I do, there is a reason behind it. He say, Allen is a very strong personal kind of guy. And you're the only one that can deal with him. You say he's the only one on this team.
And that must have been
I was like, oh my God. So at first, it was, we bumped head a little bit because I got to establish, I'm not going to tolerate this.
Sure.
This is not going to happen here because, hey, I got to get up early in the morning. I got to get my rest. I got to study, so all this is not going on. But we end up becoming really close friends.
And were you surprised by his success at the next level?
No, I wasn't because there's a kind of athletes that's very gifted. He's a gifted athlete, Allen. If you even look at Allen Iverson physically, his frame, he was built to play basketball.
And the fact that he overcame what he did and his personal mistakes and overcame, that's a great story in its own right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, just to see that kind of success from that young man, I imagine, are you still in contact with him? You talk to him every once in a while?
Yes, we haven't spoken probably for the past 3 years because I was overseas playing and, he's got his own issues now. But this summer we do have a big Georgetown reunion. Like this is probably one of its kind. I think July 27, we all gonna gather. Georgetown Patriot is organizing that, having everybody's back, seeing all these former players. But I wasn't surprised that he was successful because Allen has always been a hard worker and he was very driven, especially knowing, just like you say, his history, where he came from. So that's
What's your favorite story about Georgetown? I mean, we could go on here and I could talk about, being a captain. I could talk about losing, going all the way to the Elite Eight before UMass ended that your sophomore year, being a captain and playing for one of the most heralded coaches. But tell me a Boubacar favorite story from your time.
My favorite story, I think it was my freshman year. So we live on campus, Village A. We roomed together. I mean, it's not like you allow as a player, you're allowed to room with anybody. We all had our apartment and we roomed together. So some of the older guys, I think they had a party, and they had beers in there, bottles of beers. I guess they forgot to get rid of it after the party.
Uh-oh.
So he's Coach Thompson. This guy is very paranoid, so he sent somebody to check up on you got to be careful. I mean, he can show up at the apartment anytime.
Yeah.
They have keys, anytime. I mean, he got coaches working for him, and they'll show up to your class, to your apartment, and they'll show up there and announce. And they got a key, they'll get in. So he sends one of the assistant coach, and the guy shows up and find all these beer bottles empty. He goes back and tell him, now we have, the next practice we have. So during practice lasts about 3.5 hours. So we have 2 breaks. So we have all our water bottles. He filled them up with Gatorade. So there's a particular 4. The bottle would not fill with Gatorade. It would fill with beer. So during the break, he'll tell you, I want you to rehydrate. You have to, we're about to do some more. So we had hard. That day, it was upset.
Oh, sure.
So we had a hard practice. So basically, he blamed everybody. So everybody had to suffer for, the mistake of some did. So we are sitting there. I'm like, oh my God, this Gatorade never tasted so good. So I'm just, and these guys over here, they just did this and put their bottle down. So he's like, I want everybody to finish their bottle. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, you don't have to tell me twice. So mine is done because I was,
Yeah.
So he sends the manager, say, check to make sure every bottle is, empty. And there was these 4 bottles still full. He's like, oh, no, so they brought those 4 bottles to him. No, these still full. Like, you got your number on your bottle, so
Right.
He's like, such, come over here. Why you did not finish your bottle? They were like, what's going on here? Like, we didn't know.
Yeah, you had
we
no
didn't know
idea?
the story. No, we didn't know what was going on. So I'm like, what is going on here? I mean, that's, there's something going on. I'm like, what is going on? He say, son, I'm talking to you. That's what he say. He's like, son, I'm talking to you, and I better get an answer. He's like, and one of the guys say, because what's in it? I'm like, what's in it? I'm confused here.
Yeah.
I just have to get ready
Right.
in mind. So, what's in the bottle? He's like, beer? He's like, oh, beer is in a bottle. He say, well, I want you guys to finish that beer since you guys drink beer at the apartment. So you're gonna drink beer here too. Oh man, he made them finish the beer. It was bad. It was a bad day. And that was my favorite story. And I was over there just like kind of laughing. I'm like, really? I've never seen anything like this.
And lesson learned.
Absolutely, lesson learned. And so those are the kind of stories you get.
I'd probably fill a book.
Yeah.
But what did you take away from John Thompson when you walked off that campus that you have taken now 21 years since graduating?
Well, I learned that I could overcome anything. I went to Georgetown. I went through the Coach Thompson. Coach Thompson put all kind of obstacles on my way my 4 years, just by design, just to make you overcome them.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you, if you do 4 years here, you'll survive anywhere. And after college, I went everywhere. I played basketball a lot of places, but everywhere I was able to survive, whether it was cold, I was focused. So, and I also learned to be, to be a good citizen, to do what's right. He preached that, do the right thing,
Was there ever any, as a basketball player at a big-time university, was there ever any anger? Was there ever, did you ever resent maybe some of the players that got a chance to play in the NBA and maybe you did not?
Well,
You're seeing these guys get drafted. You ended up playing a long time overseas, and you had success overseas, MVP and everything like that. But is there any, as a big-time ball player, is there any resentment when you're seeing other guys get drafted?
I don't know if I would call it resentment, but there was some anger there. Because I felt like at that time, we did a lot for the program, especially being his captain. I mean, a lot of stuff that I'm not going to share here that I was able to do for him, as you know, for the other players, some stuff that, you know, only captain usually do stuff like that,
sure.
You know. But I felt like he thought we were going to be okay, my friend and I, because we were one of the few people that were able to choose our own major. You know, everybody else, they chose their major for them. So one of the only people say, you guys are smart enough, you're going to make it.
And you majored in international relations.
Right. So it's like, you're going to make it. But I wanted to do more with basketball, you know, here. And I felt like we didn't get the help that we deserved and some others did.
Mm-hmm. How long did it maybe take to get over that?
Well, I think right away. Because I couldn't let that linger, because I had made in my mind, I mean, I'm going to just go overseas and continue doing this. I'm like, whether it's here or overseas, I'm still playing. And that's
and you played a long time. You played, what, 15 years overseas?
Yes, I played from 98 to 2010, 11.
And it was Argentina's where you went first? Why there?
Well, Argentina, because I had a friend, my best friend, Yaya, he was playing in Uruguay.
Okay.
So he was a very established player, and he did a good job. I mean, they loved him. So right after college, I went to the World Championship in Greece. Then when I came back, I was supposed to go to Turkey, had a country in Turkey. But I was training, and I twisted my ankle. It was a bad twist. I mean, 2 months I couldn't, so there goes the contract, obviously. So my friend was like, why don't you come to Uruguay? Just, you know. So I went to Uruguay for a month, and there was this doctor. I was staying at a hotel, so there's this doctor who was there for work. He saw a game, so when he went back to Argentina, he see they had a team here, so he knew the coach. He's like, man, there is this player in Uruguay. You gotta see this guy play. So before I know it, I get a call from them. It was in November. They were like, we want you to come out here and try out. So I went there. They let me try out for 2 games, and it was tough because they only gave me 2 games, but
yeah,
thankfully
that's all you needed, though.
Exactly, that's all I needed. So I stayed that year, and I stayed a lot more years.
Yeah, but I mean, 20 points a game. You're doing real well over there. What's the style of basketball like? I mean, for those of us who are fans of the NBA game and obviously the college game, but did you have to adapt to a different kind of game?
Absolutely. I had to adapt, because basically I think a lot of Americans make that mistake. You go overseas, you think I'm there to save you, instead of being part of the team and asking what's needed from you. Mm-hmm. And I was smart enough to know to adapt to the game. I didn't go over there and be a jerk to everybody.
Sure.
I was there on time when we practiced twice a day, sometimes 3 times. I was there on time every day. I never missed practice. If it's 6 a.m., I'm up 6 a.m. at practice. But they wanted you to be part of the team, because they have their players, they have really good local players.
Sure.
So I'm just here to adapt what's needed of me. Do you need me to do more scoring? And once they know you can do more, then they start trusting you more. As opposed to me just going over there, hey, I want the ball in my hands every day, I'm going to shoot the ball every day, you're probably going to go home in less than a week if you do that.
What's the money like? Is it comparable? Can you make a lot of money playing overseas?
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of these places you can make pretty good money, especially in Spain, in Italy, But you will have to work one day, but at least it's a good start in life. Mm-hmm. It allows you to have a good start, and you can pay some of the stuff you want on cash and stuff like that. But I think the most important part of it's just you doing what you want. I mean, you work maybe a couple of hours, 4 hours a day, and you may get paid between, depending where you are. I mean, $10,000 tax free, $7,000 a month tax free.
Yeah.
So that's not bad.
And you're seeing the world.
Absolutely, you're seeing the world. So that's not a bad gig.
No,
you know?
no.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys do it who don't have NBA careers.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people go overseas. Is there anything better than playing for your national team? Is that a different kind of pride than playing with Hoyas on the front? Is it to have the Senegal national jersey on?
It is different because Senegalese fans are very critical, and they are very tough, and they think they know basketball or they know the sport more than anybody else. So there's an extra level of motivation when you play in Senegal. You have to perform. That's the best way I can say it.
Right.
You have to perform because they are watching you, and they are not shy about going on TV, on radio, or somewhere saying you didn't. Yeah.
You were the MVP.
Yes.
In 2005.
Yes, I was the MVP. We had a African championship, and we had not. Keep in mind that we had not win that title in I don't know how many years. I think 20 years prior to that. I mean, we were a good basketball country, but we went through this slump like 20 years that we couldn't win the thing. And so here we are. I had just finished college. A buddy of mine, Yaya, played at Georgetown, and then Maktar played at UNC, and we had a couple of other guys play here. So we were determined that we were going to regain this title, and we did a good job. I think I was named the captain, and I was able to lead the team, through victory, and I think everybody contributed. And
yeah, but that's still got to be when you're playing for your country with your country's jersey on to win that championship has got to be just, a pride factor alone's got to be up there.
Well, we were very, and we did it in front of our public too.
Yeah.
So we were really excited. I mean, it was everybody. I mean, the whole country. I mean, everybody was very excited. I mean, here we are. We're getting the title because we were pretty good back in the 70s. We were like almost every African championship we would win it, but we went 20 years we could not win it. Yeah. So everybody was very excited, and probably my biggest accomplishment, if you ask me.
I've talked to several now retired athletes, and the one question that I ask is, when did you know it was time to give up basketball? Was there a specific day you tried to do something and couldn't get it done, or when did Boubacar say, okay, next chapter?
Playing professional is like any job, any regular job. You got to get up and go to work. You got to be able to perform at work as well. So you got to do your job. So I always say to myself, I'm not going to put a timeline on it. If I get to a point where I'm struggling getting up, if it starts to become a burden, I'm going to give it up because I want to leave this. I want to live the way I came in, because these people had a lot of respect for me, because they'll tell you, first I'm running, but if I get to a point where I cannot do that, or it's a burden and I'm trying to cheat, I'm gonna.
And was there a day that happened?
Absolutely, that's I think it was in 2000. It just started being painful. I'm not enjoying running because I love running. I love playing basketball. I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling it, and so I had to be honest with myself.
Yeah.
Because, the off season, I just didn't use the off season just to rest. I used the off season to get better, because I have to get better. I gotta stay in shape, because when I get somewhere, they're not gonna get me in shape. I need to show up in shape, ready.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because if not, they'll send you home. So that started becoming a problem. Getting up every day, going to the gym, running, lifting weight, shooting basketball. It started being a burden. So I'm like, it's time for me to go.
And why come back here?
Well, Wilmington is my home. I spend more time in Wilmington than I've done in my own country. This is home for me. And this is what I know. I always wanted to, and I'm really laid back. I'm not a big city kind of guy like DC. So, and Wilmington is a perfect place for me. And, plus I still have connection. Like I said, the family that welcomed me pretty much like my own family. So I just wanted to come back, at least to figure out what I wanted to do, because I knew I didn't want to be a diplomat anymore. So so what I wanted to do.
And when was that decision that you wanted to come back here? You call Coach Battle and reestablish yourself here and everything else?
Well, yes, Coach Battle, we were already in touch. And Eva Battle, so my mom, she was a teacher. They both were teachers. So, and it shows you how people impact your life. Because of them, I became a teacher. Because, I watch them work every day. And teaching is a noble sport, a noble profession. We're going through a lot lately, but I wanted to be a teacher. I knew then when I watched them, get up every day, I'm like, this is not a bad thing to do. Plus, I'm still giving back to the community. I'm still impacting the life of youngsters. I say, maybe I should give it a try.
And that first day in class, do you remember that first day that you were the teacher?
Yeah. The whole week I was nervous.
And that was at where was that? At Cape Fear?
It was at Cape Fear. I was serving there. I was serving and helping out with basketball.
Pender County Schools, and then Cape Fear Academy, right?
Cape Fear Academy, then New Hanover County. But finally got the teacher resigned in the middle of the year. So they asked me to come be a long-time sub. Well, they hired me just to be there for the rest of the school year. And I was really nervous the whole week because I wasn't trained to be a teacher, but language, that's one of my passions too.
Sure.
So, but I don't think anything can prepare you to what you have to go through when you're in a classroom. You learn with experience, But the first day, yes, very nervous. And obviously, kids pick up on that.
Do they really?
Oh, yes, they do. They're very smart. They are very smart.
Yeah, because I would think that if a guy who's 6'7" and built like you are, I would think that you would have the command in the classroom, not the students.
These guys are fearless. They are not afraid of anything or anybody, But you're right too, because I'm a big guy. Yes. I have a deep voice. I'm a little bit loud, so that's a way to get
right.
Kids' attention. And also, getting to know them a little bit, just not about, hey, I want you to learn this subject. Hey, what's your story? Because they all have stories.
And I've been in your classroom. Yes. I was there with my wife that day, and your command of a classroom is impressive for somebody who didn't have the training as a teacher. But I guess you picked that up through the battles, you say, because you're in, and you do have the respect of those kids.
Yes, sir.
In the classroom that I was in that day.
Well, absolutely, but I had to learn the right way because you learn from your previous years, because there were some disastrous years for me where, you didn't have any classroom, you don't have control of your classroom.
Right.
Yeah, but you learn from that. You learn from the things you didn't do right. Then you try to fix those the following years. And I've been very successful in doing that. And just like I said, you mentioned it earlier, it's also you got to be a little bit personable. You have to, talk. You got to bring them to you got to go down to their level sometimes. Mm-hmm. That's what they want. You got to ask them more about their personal lives. Because kids will not respect you and they will not learn until they see that you care. If they don't, they think that you don't care, they will not learn. They
Mm-hmm.
will not give about what you have to say.
What's Boubacar like as a dad?
Oh man, it's my dad. He's a boy, so you can be a little bit rough, And I'm old school, You're not gonna run around here thinking you're the only kid in this world and be entitled. No, it's not gonna. It's not. You're gonna be humble, and you're gonna be grateful.
Yeah.
To me, that's very important.
To let everybody in on there, my wife Sheila has been in Boubacar's classroom because she is with a special needs student.
Yes, sir.
Who was also in your classroom.
Yes, sir.
And that's how you two developed a relationship of knowing each other in the class. Mm-hmm. And then she said, "Do you know Boubacar Aw? I'm in his classroom." I'm like, "Really? Yeah. I've got to get this guy in here for an interview," because I think your story to me is just tremendous. Of a 17-year-old coming here 4,000 miles mm-hmm. away and doing what you've accomplished. It, to me, is just one of the best stories that I've ever heard. just in someone who's been such a success.
Yeah, and I've been blessed. Just like I say, I mean, this is a great community. I came to a great community. I came to a great family. I mean, without them, I would not have been able to do what I've accomplished because they took their time also to teach me English, teach me the way of life, and just support me. And that's why I came back. I mean, this is home. Wilmington is home for me now, and when at school, when I looked around, it's we do have also a few foreigners, and I talked to them like, when I first got here, I said, I didn't have this luxury. I said, you guys are spoiled these days. I said, you're out here, you got an ESL teacher, you have an ESL classroom, I'm like, I didn't have that. I say, sometimes it can be good or bad. I'm like, sometimes you learn just in a classroom and just get through it. I mean, you get confused a little bit, you get frustrated, but eventually, with hard work, I mean, you can achieve great things.
And you've been very kind with your time here today. No. When you lay your head down on the pillow at night and you have a chance to think about everything that's happened in your 42, 43 years on this earth, do you smile? Are you amazed? Are you in wonder? What runs through your mind?
One thing, John, I've been very blessed because I grew up in Senegal. It's a third world country. We're not a rich nation like the U.S., but we were surrounded by love. And a lot of the kids, I always ask myself, why me? Why did I get the opportunity I got and the others didn't get it? Give me the opportunity to come to this great nation and given, all the chances I've been given to, So I just always, lay down pillow. I say, I thank God. I'm grateful. Because there is nothing special about me that all those kids that I grew up with didn't have the opportunity that I got. So why me? So I'm very grateful. I am very grateful to everything. I don't see it anywhere in complaint. I'm grateful. I am grateful for everything that I had because I have a job. I'm healthy. I have great people around me. So what else can I ask?
You've got a family.
Absolutely.
And you've got great friends. Yes. And the thing I think is so cool is you've taken that next step and now you're coaching and trying to help the next generation of basketball players. And you coach football even though you didn't have a lot of experience with football. But again, it's you're in a lot of ways like my wife, and we've talked about in podcasts to different people, is my wife has an awesome way of relating to youngsters.
Yes.
And you do as well. And I think that's a gift in both of you.
Well, thank you. But when I talk to Sheila, I mean, Sheila is amazing. The things she's been able to do with, the youngsters. I think she has a very special relationship with them. She understands them. And I think she gives every youngster an opportunity. She's a champion of the youngster. I don't say she has learned so much. I don't know if I would have been able to survive this year with the special need kid that I had in my class if it wasn't because of her. Because she showed me how you're supposed to deal with the kid. I'm open-minded. I'm like, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, she does, and she's the better part of me, and I'm glad that she was able to help you just a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, she's great to do where when they had a meeting, I didn't have to go because the kid and I had a great relationship, and he had an awful relationship with the other ones.
Yeah. It is really. I really appreciate your time. I've loved this conversation, and I've wanted to do it for quite a while. But this is a fun for me, not just because of the basketball aspect, but because of the success aspect that you have.
Well, thank you for having me, John. I mean, I've been watching you on TV a long time.
Don't go back too far now. Don't go back too far.
But I'm a huge fan, and thank you for having me. I enjoy every bit of it.
A big thank you to Boubacar Aw for sparing some of his time and sharing his story with us this week. You can find him on Facebook and on Instagram. You can also find him at Hoggard High School, in the classroom and in the gym, helping students become better players, but also better people. Before we go, I'd like to ask you again to please subscribe to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast on whatever app that you use to listen to your favorite podcast episodes. And if you would be so kind to leave us a rating or a review, the more of those we have, the higher we'll be listed on the podcast apps, and the more new listeners we'll be able to bring in. I'm John Evans. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of One-on-One.